Welcome to Get Your Bell Rung, a pro wrestling podcast. I am your host, KG, and with me is a gentleman that I am so honored to have on this podcast. He has so many different titles. He wears a lot of different hats. Professional wrestler. He is known WWE as Kizarny. Hope I got that right. Also, he wears a hat within Power Slap, a sport that's really, really growing popularity very, very fast. He also hosts an event at the Cauliflower Alley Club Reunion called On the Fly, which we'll talk about as well. I am talking about Sinn Bodhi. How are you, my friend?
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, well, man. Let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Talk to me about where you grew up and your childhood.
Grew up on the outskirts of Orangeville, Ontario, Canada, planet Earth, Milky Way. Little ranch house, little small horse ranch. So I kind of grew up with comic books and a couple of non-cable channels, one of which had pro wrestling on, and I was just a shy little artsy fartsy introverted kid, and the comic books and the wrestlers kind of were my friends growing up, and as I got a little older, when I got to high school, I befriended who are now known as Edge and Christian, or Cope. So we were all high school idiots together, and we were just thick as thieves, and we loved wrestling. We actually met when we were little kids, and then we kind of reconnected in high school. So we were thick as thieves in high school, and there you go.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up.
Was there a particular experience you went through that influenced you to shape your interest in performance or your physical expression? Because everything that you're involved in is very physical, right? Yeah. Was there something that kind of pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, I was just a scared little artsy fartsy kid, just scared of my own shadow, and so my dad, I guess, wanted to kind of toughen me up and teach me some discipline, and so he put me in karate, and it was weird, almost like the second and third gen wrestlers nowadays, how they grew up around pro wrestling. Like I grew up around karate. Like when I was a kid, my dad was like a tournament fighter. He was a ranked fighter. So all the guys I ever got to train with, from being a kid all the way in, to a young man, were all like, world champion of this, world champion of that, this champion, that champion, all of it, like just top notch karate and various like kickboxing and all that stuff. Like, got to train a little bit with Wally Slokey, who was, karate champion. He was a shower can guy, and Alex and John Atkinson, who were Canadian champions, and Donnie Mignon, who was another regional champion. Lots of this really top guys. Jimmy Basovi, lots of really great martial artists, and weirdly, so I don't know if just on kind of a weird side note, like if you've ever seen Harold Howard, who was infamous for a couple of matches in very, very early UFC. He's a big, scary ginger dude from Canada, big, whatever he was, 250 pounds, whatever he was.
Right.
And so like when I was a little kid, that was like my dad's like arch enemy on the karate tournaments. Like the dude was like in wrestling speak was a total heel. Like, I mean, he took cheap shots and low roads and all sorts of different stuff. And as a kid, I was terrified of him. Like my dad is tough as nails. My dad's a sweet, sweet guy, but he's tough as nails. Right. I think he missed his calling as a wrestling manager because he always had funny like one-liners and stuff. And he was a big dude, he's about my size. But as a little kid, like I remember kind of feeling like almost like in that Rocky movie where Rocky's kid is watching, Rocky getting his ass kicked and stuff. And my dad went toe to toe with that dude. And I was always terrified of him, but at the same time, so angry that he would just take cheap shots on my dad, let alone anybody else. And my dad handles his business and put him on his ass, a time or two, but they were like longtime rivals. And I just remember thinking, man, if I had a time machine, which I don't, so it's kind of a moot point, but like I would love to get Harold Howard in an octagon or in a boxing ring or a wrestling ring or a freaking alley his best and my best. You know, like
Right.
I'm not old, but I'm not young.
Right.
But I think like if we were to take 35-year-old Harold Howard and 35-year-old Sinn Bodhi, I would love to do a time capsule and get that done. I would do that in anything, you know, MMA, karate, bare knuckle, slap. I don't care, whatever. Just because it was a guy that really, you know, I don't care that he competed with my dad. I just care that he kind of, you know, was a dirty competitor and such an honorable martial art. Like I came up in that Miyagi-Do style of karate, not the Cobra Kai style of karate. So like I was very respectful of the rules and again, and two, like growing up and then doing what I've done, you know, before wrestling and all that stuff is like, I know that there's no such thing as a fair fight. So you know, what it is. But yeah, I think I don't think I've ever said that on any podcast ever, anywhere to anybody. I just kind of just popped in my head. It was just something I was thinking about because I tripped over a little half-hour video on Harold Howard the other day and talking about stuff. So I guess maybe it was just on the front of my brain, but yeah. So there you go.
Now, with your father being involved in the type of physical sport he was involved in, did you feel like there was pressure on you to follow in his footsteps and make a career out of that versus professional wrestling?
Maybe a little bit, but it wasn't imposed by him. It was maybe self-imposed. It was kind of a prison of my own creation, you know.
Right.
Like my dad was, you know, he was one of those guys that he was a great guy. He is a great guy. He's awesome. He's my favorite dad. But he was one of those guys that had that personality where you love him or hate him, you know. And if you just didn't get him, you hated him. If you got him, you loved him. You know, I think they had like, you know, what do they say, like the TDS? I think he was like the first guy to admit, you know, people getting TDS.
Yeah.
You know, and or maybe it was DDS. It was dad derangement syndrome. I don't know. You know, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I just and weirdly, like, so I'm kind of a softy at heart. Like I'm a big animal guy. Like I would have no problem. So if I accidentally like killed a spider or something or stepped on a bug, I would feel awful. But I would have zero remorse if I decapitated a burglar that was trying to rob my house. You know, so like I have no empathy for guys that would be mean to women, animals, children, anything like that. Anything like, you know, the whole like don't pick on somebody smaller than you kind of a thing, you know.
Right.
And so even though like, you know, I was in karate tournaments and so forth with, you know, guys my size or whatever, just anytime I ever like knocked out a dude or anything like clobbered a dude, my dad would be like, yeah, look at my kid. And I just inside, I like on the outside, I'd be like, yeah. But on the inside, I felt awful that I like clobbered somebody, you know? And so I think that's why early on in life, I cashed in my black belt for spandex. And you know, wrestling is very difficult and very physically arduous, but at the same time, we're kind of playing, you know, like you're the good guy, I'm the bad guy, or vice versa. And we're in the locker room, we're hamming it up, but out there we're, you know, telling a very physical, dangerous story, but it's still a story, and we're there to protect each other and you know, live to fight another day.
Right.
That set up my brain a lot nicer than knocking out dudes legit.
What promotion did you grow up watching? Because obviously, I hear Canada. My first thought goes to Stampede Wrestling, right? Now, I'm sure that there were other promotions out there.
So mostly 99% of it was like WWF, you know, Sunday morning, Saturday morning, Saturday's main event. Secondarily, it was just like the wrestling magazines, like, you know, those black and white newsprint looking magazines where you'd see pictures of the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express, or Ric Flair, or Dusty, but I really didn't see footage on them until a little bit later, until I kind of started kind of diving into it. Secondarily, after WWF, I watched a little bit of AWA. It really depended on like what kind of channels we had, because I didn't have cable for, you know, the good part of my childhood. Like, we just had like 2 or 3 channels we could get, and then like a lot of like, you know, gone are the days where you go to the local video store and rent some movies or something, or like as a kid, like I remember me and Edge and Christian and our other little buddies would race to the video store to get, you know, Best of WWF Volume 3, or get like, you know, WrestleMania 2 or whatever the heck it was. And then that's kind of where we got our first taste of like who, like Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors,
Right.
And these other guys that were not WWE or WWF at the time. So then I was just like, holy crap, the whole universe. It was kind of like, I saw DC, now I get to see Marvel. It was pretty interesting. But I saw a little bit of AWA, and then weirdly, as a kid, Angelo Mosca lived in the same town that I lived in, and he would always come and work out at my parents' gym and all this stuff. So I mean, he was the size of a mountain, like he was just a big dude, And he was always super cool. But I saw him as a kid. I never met him, even after I hadn't seen him since before I started wrestling, like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But I grew up around him, which was so weird. And yeah, so that was kind of a thing. But yeah.
So,
but sorry, I got sidetracked. I didn't really see Calgary. I didn't really see Stampede until kind of later, until I was sort of like in wrestling student mode, kind of like studying game tape and watching other stuff and everything. But yeah, it was WWF and secondarily AWA, and again the magazines like Pro Wrestling Illustrated and all that stuff.
Was there someone who directly influenced you in professional wrestling? You there? Yeah. You got me? Yep. Can you hear me, Sinn?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay. Was there someone who directly influenced you in professional wrestling? Like your ride or die guy?
Yeah, Jake the Snake was my guy. Like he scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. And then I wrestled him very early in my career, and we buddied up and became road buddies. And he, to this day, is a very, very, very close friend of mine. He's a mentor and a big brother. And he even officiated our wedding, which is still
nice.
never not weird.
Right.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think everybody at the wedding, whether they were wrestling fans or not, he kind of did this little diatribe on me and my wife, Karen. And he had everybody sitting in there like kids at a campfire, just like, as he's like, brother, talking about my life to be. So it was really cool. I remember sitting there like, so I had a bunch of my buddies like stand with me, and my little brother and Edge were my best men at the wedding. And I had other guys like just like there watching the wedding, like so many different wrestlers and like Dexter Loomis was sitting there, and he's like, I can never go to another wedding again. This takes the cake. Like there's nothing that's ever going to top this. Like I'm wrecked for all weddings. Like my friends surprised us with like a freak show performance and stuff, and all of my friends are all like Guinness World Record, holding like world renowned, sideshow, from America's Got Talent, Guinness World Records, Amazing Jonathan show, Go Big show, all these different things. And so they all, put on this like surprise show for us. And it was pretty darn awesome. It's actually weird. It's on YouTube. Like if you kind of search Sinn Bodhi's wedding, like you'll see like one link is like the actual ceremony, and the other link is like the after party, whatever you want to call it, the wedding show. And so like, yeah, guys were like, I can never go to, Dexter Loomis and the other people too. He's the first one that comes to mind. We're like, I can't never go to another wedding. Like this is nothing's ever going to top this, so.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Jake is always like, I've been friends with Jake for almost a quarter of a century. And in that time, we have never had an ill word with each other. I mean, he's always been there for me. I'd like to think I've been there for him. We're just good brothers, and I always tease him. He gets mad when I say it, but I call him my fairy god brother. And yeah, he's a good dude. He's a very, 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 very good dude.
Is Jake the Snake, what you see on TV, just this very diabolical mind, if you will? How is Jake the Snake wrestling character versus Jake the Snake, the man?
Weirdly, I think we're like our sense of humor and our that's where I'm looking for, like our appreciation of like the kind of wrestling that we like, and a lot of the stuff, just a lot of stuff in life that we like is very, very similar. I think our biggest and main, really our only difference was like, back in the day, to this day, I'm more or less a straight edge guy, and
Mhm.
he more or less wasn't. So
Right.
that was our biggest dividing thing. But I mean, I never judged him for it. I always like protected him and tried to help him and all that
Right.
stuff. Again, and he's always helped me anytime I've, stumbled with something. He's always there. He's one of the first, if not the first, always there. I remember
Oh,
that way back in the day uh, when I was married to my practice wife, who was a wrestler, and I remember we had a pretty gnarly breakup. Like it hit me hard, and I mean
mhm.
Jake would call, and Jake was always hard to get on the phone, and I never had to call him once. He called me every single day to check on me and try to tell me a stupid joke or just see if I needed anything or whatever. Like he's a good brother, and I know him and all of us collectively, we've all made lots of mistakes. That's what kind of grooms us into who we are to this day. Or who we will be. But yeah, he's never done me wrong. He's always been loyal, good brother, and I love him.
Yeah. So you earlier you said that you studied martial arts and then you decided to trade your black belt in for wrestling tights. When at what part of your life did you exactly know I want to be a professional wrestler? Did you know this before martial arts? Was it during martial arts?
I wanted to as a kid, but just like the sort of the picture they painted, well, in my child's mind's eye, I just thought you kind of had to be 7 feet tall just to be a referee, and I was just this little
Right.
kid, so I just thought, my dad was, he's about 6'1", 200 plus pounds, so I know like he was big as far as I was concerned, but I thought as a wrestler he was a midget, so I thought, man, if I get it, and my mom was tall, my mom was 5'10", is 5'10". So I thought, well, if I get to be 6'1", that still makes me a runty wrestler, at least like back in the day, like kind of how we
Right.
perceived it. And so I just, as much as I want to do it, I just kind of thought I'm not going to grow up to be, 6'5" or this or that or whatever it is. So I just kind of, as much as I wanted to do it, I just didn't think it would be physically in the cards. And it wasn't until kind of years later that I, learned about cruiserweight wrestling, or that some of the wrestlers weren't as big. Like, they weren't all 7 feet tall, like they're all big guys for sure. But like nowadays, there's a lot more cruiserweights, a lot more
Mhm.
faster moving, guys and girls. But yeah, back in the day, I mean, when I started, like I was a 250-pound cruiserweight. Like
Wow.
I remember as a kid, like think about it, like Jimmy Snuka, Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man, they're all 250-pound cruiserweights.
Yeah.
Snuka probably 260, 275, whatever he was. He was the cruiserweight, like he was the high flying guy.
Right.
He's bigger than I was. So nowadays it's not the case, but back then, yeah, it was. I think it kind of went from the wrestling size kind of shrunk over the years. Just like the dinosaurs. Like I think wrestling kind of went from Brontosaurus to T-Rex to Raptor to Raccoon. So
Right.
here we are.
Right.
You know, so now I'm a bigger dude on wrestling shows.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, I was one of the tiniest. Like when I first started wrestling, like I I got my basics taught to me by Ron Hutchinson, who also taught Edge and Christian,
Mhm.
Rhino, lots of other guys and girls. But I Beth Phoenix, but I actually trained with like Trish Stratus and Gail Kim and Tracy Brooks as well. And
Wow.
aside from them, I was the smallest dude in Ron's platoon. And again, I'm 6'1", 250. Everybody else was bigger than me, except for
Right.
Trish. So and Gail and Tracy. So
Right. Right.
just different size, different era, different. Just everything is different.
Now, I want to go back to your dad for a second. What did your dad think when you decided this is what you're going to do? Because look, professional wrestling is, regardless of what people think, it's very, very physical.
Sure.
You take a lot of abuse, right, with your body, but professional wrestling still has that reputation of fake fighting. You're right,
And
especially to someone like your dad, who was this badass. He participated in these tournaments in the sport. So what went through your dad's head, or what did he tell you when you told him that?
well, I mean, I think he knew that I was a decent fighter, for a shoot, So it wasn't like I was just signing up to go be a I don't know, ballerina or something, which
Right.
ironically, I always laugh when people say wrestling ain't ballet or this ain't ballet, which is ironic because I've never taken a day of ballet in my life, but I'm smart enough to know ballet is very difficult. But my dad was just like, well, you're a tough kid. That's what you want to do. As long as you're happy. His whole mandate was as long as I did whatever made me happy, then he would be proud. It's like, if you stick yourself into something that you can't stand, he goes, I'll be disappointed. But as long as you're happy, I'm happy.
Right. Now, let's go to training. When you first went to train for professional wrestling, was it exactly what you thought it was? Was it more difficult? Was there at any point in time during this training that you're like, man, I don't know if I can do this or not?
Yeah, maybe like every day, like you just sort of some different mental or physical obstacle is there, and then you have to overcome it. You have to figure it out and prevail. I got very early on, I got comfortable with getting uncomfortable, so you got to be able to, be humble, be open-minded, I'm like Jeet Kune Do, man. Everything's a weapon, open-minded. I always laugh when I hear people squawking about, oh, this weapon is a dangerous weapon or that weapon. Like everything that's used as a weapon by proxy is dangerous. That's why it's a fucking weapon, And I think, a T-shirt or a spatula in somebody's hand might be a deadlier weapon than a gun or a baseball bat in somebody else's hand. I think it depends on who's wielding the weapon, So I mean, I've got my takes on different things and so forth, but I just always tried to learn. Always, especially I did want to try to stick to the stuff that I was decent at. I always wanted to try to learn stuff that was difficult, And weirdly, there's a lot of stuff I like watching that I don't like doing. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't like watching that I love doing. So figure that whole silly recipe out,
Right.
And as you kind of grow and you get older, you like different stuff, your tastes change. Like I think very differently now as a father and a husband than I did when I was, 21. So stuff, even just wrestling, be damned. Anything like some stuff I found funny back then, I do not find funny at all now, and vice versa.
Right.
There's foods I like then that I don't like now, or vice versa. So you have music, every fashion, you name it, whatever, politics, you name it.
Right.
When I was a kid, I couldn't tell you who was the president of this or who was the prime minister of that or whatever. Ever since the 2 weeks to flatten the curve is when I kind of really, jumped in upon. Now I'm obsessed. I have to know everything about everything.
Right.
It's crazier than the storylines in wrestling. It's on both sides of the aisle. It's like Raw and SmackDown. Red and blue is to me is Raw and SmackDown. So it's just. But being a student of psychology and coming up under Jake the Snake and other guys that were psychologists, like I trained under Dusty Rhodes, Al Snow, Dr. Tom, Rip Rogers. They're all master psychologists, And so I was trying to see, like, what's the gag here? What's the con? What's the story? Who's the babyface? Who's the heel? And just applying the psychology to it. And, I'll say it in wrestling seminars all the time. There's no such thing. You hear the term wrestling psychology. There's no such thing as wrestling psychology. There is only psychology applied to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna be a hockey player, you're gonna be an accountant, you're gonna be a sanitation officer. There's a psychology to how to be friendly, how to get things done, how to be assertive, how to be ominous, how to be lazy, how to be funny, how to be whatever. It's all human nature, and if you kind of understand that, it'll make you a half decent pro wrestler. Like I'll watch politics and whatever side of the aisle you're on, or anybody that's watching is on. It's fine. It's free country, be it however you want. But like you could almost like just looking through the eyes that I'm looking through, you can watch some reporter or some host or something, and you almost don't even need to hear the information. You could just, if you really know what to look for, you can look at their face and their mannerisms and their pauses and their size, their little micro expressions, and you can go, yeah, that person's full of shit, or no, that person I think has good intentions. So, or maybe that person is ignorant with good intentions, or this person is smart, has had good intentions, but this is not well intended. Like you can really start dissecting things up emotionally and mentally if you sort of know what you're looking for.
Yeah. And by the way, fans, if you notice there's a little bit of awkward silence after Sid finishes speaking, the sound, what he's saying, and his lips doesn't match. It's kind of like watching an old Bruce Lee movie. So I'm listening for that pause.
I didn't realize that. I'm
Yeah, no, you're good, man. We had the merger of the internet.
Sorry.
Look, I'm used to it. My wife is Asian, so my wife would think that was funny, guys. So don't get offended.
So
about
you're living in a dubbed kung fu movie? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah. I love you, boo boo. Going back. How long were you?
All right, KT. Your kung fu's not bad. What's for dinner? Or I'll karate kick you.
She's going to. I'll be sleeping on the sofa tonight.
And for anybody, if anybody is offended at me cracking that joke, just fuck off. That's right. What I think about that. Humor is exactly for that, just to make it silly and smile. You're offended by it, but beat it.
Yep. No, I always say, if you're offended by something, that's a you problem.
That's not a you problem, not a me problem, for sure.
Yeah.
Al Snow has this wonderful quote. I love this quote. He says, "I'm responsible for what I say, not for what you understand."
100%.
Love it.
Absolutely. How long were you? How long were you training for before your first match? And the reason why I have a problem asking that is because
3 months.
Because I understand you're always training as a professional wrestler.
Sure.
So it's kind of a weird thing to ask, but you said you pretty much had a first match right away?
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first opponent? And talk to me about this match. Was this a match that you're like, okay, I got it? Or was
Ron Hutchinson, he taught us that, you're going to start as a baby face because you're going to get led. And the more experienced guy, being the heel, is going to dictate the pace and call the match and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay. And then maybe a week before my first match, I didn't know I was going to have my first match. And he said, "Hey, I want to put you on the show, except we're really light on heel. So you look like a villain. So we're going to start you as a villain." So I was just like, okay. So I was kind of like, being prepared to be led. Now I have to lead, or it was kind of half and half a little bit. Like we were all in the same sort of platoon and we were, figuring it out together. So, and the other guy had maybe a couple matches before me as well. So it wasn't like he had a huge head start, but he had a little bit. And, so, and he was fun. He had personality. His name was Tony Mack. It was sort of like a Rock knockoff, like kind of an Italian. He had that night at the Roxbury, like the you meet me.
Yeah,
that guy. He kind of was something like that, and the Rock smashed together. And he was a fun dude, tall, big guy. He had to be about 6'4", bigger than I was. I might have been maybe as in stature as wide as him, but he was good 6'4". And we wrestled at this bar. I couldn't tell you the name of the bar, like a sports bar in Toronto somewhere for Apocalypse Wrestling Federation for Ron Hutchinson's show. And it was it wasn't a hardcore match, but it was kind of lightly like a light hardcore match, sort of like a no DQ match, I guess is maybe a better term for it.
Right.
It was fun. I enjoyed myself, and we kind of had a lot of open spaces in it. Like Ron wasn't a fan of mapping out everything. Like he really taught you to work on the fly, to really go very, very ad lib. So I've always kind of been acclimated to that. I think like you can memorize all day if you want to. Like I just don't think you can contain the moments that are given to you by spontaneity if you memorize everything. Like what if lightning strikes? If you can't work and call audibles, then you don't know when to let something really marinate. And you have to kind of stick to the script, which to me is like, I don't want to do that. Like I got into this to be playful and to not have a real life job. Like I would tell guys in seminars, like what sounds more fun? Doing a history exam where you have to memorize names, dates, places, and in alphabetical order, or do an art exam. Just paint me a picture. Every single person, like, well, I want to paint a picture. Like, yeah, that's pro wrestling. So the more you memorize all that stuff, that you have to think about it, and you're just making sure you don't forget something, and it's not fun. It's just a history exam, Right. So people that have to do it, or that they do it, okay, it's not the end of the world. Like I can talk backstage, no problem. I just prefer to talk as little as possible. I'll accommodate my dance partner and I'll talk, with them as much as they want to, but I really try to get away with speaking as little as possible. Like it was funny. I wrestled with Spanky with Brian Kendrick. I don't know, it was maybe half a year ago now, whatever it was. and we'd known each other for years, and we barely touched. We touched in like in a Money in the Bank qualifying battle royal on SmackDown for like 10 seconds. But we've been buddies, since like turn of the century. So we're wrestling, and I was like, Spank, what do you want to do? And he goes, he literally smiled at me. He goes, I want the Sinn Bodhi experience. He goes, I know you like to call on the fly, and you're crazy, and I love you. Um, let's go do that. He goes, I don't usually do that. He goes, but let's go do that. I go, let's. We went and had a blast. We had a great time. It was all we could do not to giggle. Like, I mean, no, the fans would never see us. Like we looked like we hated each other, but
right.
But it was great. It was super fun, and I have a lot of love and respect for Brian, and so I'd like to think we had a really good time. I did.
Now let's take a time out for a second with your career. I want to go back. She mentioned growing up with Edge Christian, going to school with them. At this point in time in your career, were they ahead of you, or were they still trying to find their way?
So Edge won that infamous essay writing contest to go to train for free with Ron Hutchinson, like right out of high school. And again, we were all runts going into high school, and then like the senior year, like Edge just shot up from like 5'10" to 6'5", where me and Christian we were about 6'1", and so Adam went off to train first, and then me and Jay and Christian, we decided that, hey, if we get into college, we'll go to college. If we don't, we'll try to follow in those footsteps and go to Ron's school if Adam could put in a good word. And so fast forward, I got accepted to college, so I went there. Christian didn't, so he went the train. He trained a couple of years ahead of me. I was in college for about 2 years, and I hated it. And then when I left college, I decided to go be a pro wrestler. And so Adam was ahead of Jay, and then Jay was ahead of me. And but I think like Adam was already hired like WWE when I was taking my first steps into wrestling. Right?
Wow. Now, did you guys have this competition, even if it wasn't, spoking out, a competition? Was this inward competition between the three of you, even if it was a healthy competition? Nothing.
Nope. I mean, we would have competitions eating more tacos at Taco Bell, or lifting more on the bench, or curling more, or weighing more, or just stuff like that. But wrestling was never a competition. We were always excited for each other. And then weirdly, like kind of when I got hired, or not when I got hired, but like when I was wrestling, like we didn't talk a lot about wrestling because Adam and Jay were, more like in a tag team mode, and they were just at a different level than I was so far. And so forth. And we always talked about movies or comic books or this or that or whatever we were doing, just because we were like childhood friends more than we were like wrestling associates. And that was always also important for me, like especially because like they were, my seniors as far as wrestling. So I never wanted to like ever ride any coattails or get any special, opportunities or whatever. And like, and Edge certainly helped me out. They both have, in wrestling and in real life. I like to think we've helped each other out in real life, with stuff.
Right.
While always being there for each other. But I just didn't really want to bug them about that. So like, I think I had this infamous dark match that was possibly the shittiest wrestling match in the entire galaxy of forever. And Edge got me a spot for a dark match. I was just too green to know how ill prepared I was, and I always trained correctly, but the lack of experience, I just didn't know how underwater I would be, because having decent wrestling matches, on the independent show, then I'd only had like, if I had 30 or 40 matches under my belt, I'd be amazed, and they were okay, but it was against guys that I knew or this or that or whatever. And so I got the opportunity to have a dark match, and it was supposed to go against Christian, who he could have led a broom, like it would have been fine. But Pat Patterson wanted Christian to work Sylvain Grenier in his tryout match that same night. So I got my buddy Flesh, who was like a good friend of mine and looked like $1 million. He looked kind of like some sort of S&M version of Big Papa Pump, like this big jacked up dude. Looked great. It wasn't a good worker, but we had okay matches like on indie shows where there was kind of not really much pressure. But when we walked into this arena in Montreal, it's the first time we'd ever been in front of that kind of a crowd, and I enjoyed it. Like I was just like, heck yeah, I can't wait. And he, I think, was just nervous and got into his own head. And so I was calling, and I had a few matches with him already, and they seemed to go fine. But he was just, his nerves just kind of got the best of him, and it was just, and I was too green to know how to lead him. Nowadays, I could lead a guy like that in my sleep. Like, but I was underwater with him, and I didn't know what to do at the time, and it was just the absolute abysmally runny, drizzling, corny shits. And that was both of our fault, for different reasons. Both of our fault. It takes two to tango. And I was so pissed off at myself, and I just thought, I'm going to learn everything about this industry. And I know quite a bit now. And I like to think like I can call with anybody. I can get in the ring with anybody right now. Never met him before. I could call a 60-minute match in my sleep with a finish included, and not just sit in a hold for 8 hours. Like we could go. And I made myself learn that much. And like I picked Dusty Rhodes' brain, and Jake the Snake's brain, and Roddy Piper's brain, and Ricky Steamboat's brain, and Dr. Tom, and Al Snow, and Jerry Lawler, and Bobby Eaton, and everybody that would, Barry Windham, everybody that would give me the time of day to ask questions and to learn and so forth. And I'm always still learning. I'm constantly.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, some guys like I see all the time, like even these like former TV guys that get off TV and they want to map out everything with the indie guy, maybe because they don't trust them or whatever, but I'll talk to them all minimally. I don't care if you're former TV or if you're an indie guy or whatever, a good guy or bad guy. Let's talk as minimal as possible. Let's go play. And I could pull out a 20, 30-minute match in my sleep. I could pull out a 60-minute match in my sleep. There's not a lot of people that could do that. And not that I'm special or so clever or anything, but I'm old enough where I wrestled a lot of those dudes from the 80s. I'm still young enough where I can apply it to wrestling with the young cats of today. So I'm sort of that weird Jeet Kune Do malleable water in between old school and new school in that unicorn age. And there's not a lot of people that could do it. And, if they were shown, sure, why not? Like I was raised in a locker room where I was the youngest, dumbest guy. That's not the case nowadays. Nowadays, it's 99% young guys and one or two old school cats. And whether the young guys want to listen to them or not, remains to be seen. But some of these guys and girls are so athletic, but it's kind of blind leading the blind. So they're not getting better. They're not getting the most mileage out of their psychology, which will save their physicality. So we're like, my matches look super physical, but it's an illusion, it is physical, but it would be so much more arduous on the body if we actually did what I was selling you that I'm doing. Right. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So, Mr. Herb Simmons, first off, it's always an honor and a privilege when I see his name pop up that he's watching this podcast. I have so much respect for this man. But talking about you, he said he was a sponge, soaked it all up. That's what professionals do. Now, I'm about to ask you a question that it's probably damn near impossible for you to answer. But you mentioned some names. You mentioned Jake the Snake Roberts, Dusty Rhodes, Dr. Pritchard. You've had a lot of influence in your life from guys that literally are the ones who laid the path for so many of the talent today. Out of all of those guys, was there one that you feel like was more influential to you as far as your career, as far as someone that you learn more from than the other?
Oh, hands down, I learned the most from Jake the Snake. Hands down. I mean, there's guys that I was influenced by. There was guys that I loved watching as a kid. There's guys that I wrestled as an adult. But pound for pound overall, out of all those things, like from being a kid, like I remember sitting on the couch with Edge and Christian as little kids, and we watched Jake come out of nowhere and DDT Ricky Steamboat on the concrete. I was hooked.
Right.
Yeah, who is this guy? Oh my goodness. I got to know everything about this person. And he was as scary as the Road Warriors or the Wild Samoans or so forth were. Like Jake was the one that bent my mind. I'm like, where does this guy go when he's not at the wrestling show? Like he made me ask myself in my child's mind's eye, like all these questions, like, what about this? What about that? Why this? Why that? And, but out of the guys that I, spent other time around, like I learned a lot from Roddy Piper. I think he was one of the absolute best. I saw Piper before I saw Jake. Like when I saw Jake DDT Steamboat, I was hooked.
Right.
But I think the first thing that I really remember sinking my teeth into was the War to Settle the Score with Piper and Hogan. Like I was amazed, like this is real life superheroes and supervillains. And
Right.
Piper was always cool to me, never had to be, always was super cool to me. I know his daughter, Teal Piper, she's a great girl. I don't know if I can disclose it here or not, but I will have her on Power Slap. So that'll be pretty cool. So Roddy Piper will be doing Power Slap at some point in the new year. But yeah, Piper was just always super cool. And something really special to me is like when one of my peers, especially one of my peers that I really like look up to, like I respect and like a lot of my peers, but the ones that are just like way up there, like in like the wizard echelon of knowledge and infamy and all that stuff. So like I remember Piper giving me some really, really flattering compliments, like right in front of my wife, which was super special. That's like a mental championship belt for me. Having like if Dr. Tom or Jake the Snake or Rip Rogers or somebody gives me a compliment, like that's a championship belt for me. Knowing that those guys, like having Dr. Tom ask me a question, like, what do you think of this? Or Rip Rogers asked me, what do you think of that? Like internally, I'm like, holy shit, like I can't believe the good doctor just asked little old me about something, like respects my opinion. And that is a championship belt mentally for me, especially right. Such a character and such a predominantly a heel, like, I never really set out to win a whole lot of titles or whatever. It wasn't in the cards. I was there to be a really scary opponent for the shiny guy in tights and abs to win the title. Mm. And weirdly, I remember driving, one of my first road trips with Jake the Snake, and I just, like an idiot, I just asked him, I said, how come he never had a title at WWE? And he didn't ponder, he didn't stroke his mustache in thought, nothing. He just looked right at me and goes, never needed one. And I thought of that. And, and again, like, watching one of the guys that I helped kind of train was Bray Wyatt, and watching him, like, when I saw him with the title belt, I just like, it takes away, it makes him human. Like, I never liked him with a strap. I just didn't need it at all. Give a title to a guy with sparkly underwear and 10 abs. The title looks nice on those abs, but right. I want to see a title on an Undertaker or a Gangrel or a Boogeyman or a Bray Wyatt. I just don't need it.
Yeah.
Or even an Andre the Giant,
right.
Big Show. Like, I just don't need it.
As a fan, at least from my perspective, my opinion, and I agree.
And that's a compliment, and that's a compliment, by the way. Like, it's not
no, but it is, because this is the thing. I'm the same way. When it came to your Bray Wyatts or your guys who just look like they should be unbeatable, right? If you put a belt on them, that means at some point somebody's definitely going to take that title away from them. And I wasn't, as a fan, I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see these guys as being beatable. Your Undertakers and
this is all wrestling. Again, psychology applied to wrestling.
Right.
Like I'll give you like a little example where, like, if I say it, like if I don't say it, you're like, well, okay, maybe. But as soon as I say it, you'll go, since you said it, it brings forest through the trees, So like if I body slam a guy my size and I pin them and they kick out, they could kick out on 1, 2, 2.5, 2.9, whatever. You're going to go, okay. And vice versa. He slams me. You're like, he kicks out. Okay. But let's say Kane body slams me, or King Kong Bundy body slams me. And it's early in the match. It's like, a minute in the match or whatever. And I kick out. Even though I'm fresh, whatever, I still get body slammed by 450-pound King Kong Bundy or 7-foot Kane, and I kick out. Well, instantly, whether people realize it or not, probably just more on their instinct, they're just going to think like, well, those guys aren't that big if the guy can kick out, so versus a guy my size, slamming a guy my size. So like, I could certainly take that body slam, but I would flip flop and flail. So it looked like I was a bug on a windshield taking this brutal giant sized body slam. And I would flail, maybe closer to the ropes or something, where I couldn't give Kane or King Kong Bundy or whoever a pinning predicament where they wouldn't have to pin me. I wouldn't have to kick out. So I wouldn't have to accidentally shit on their size. So I'm protecting their size by selling away from them. And when I tell guys like and girls like that in a seminar, they're like, holy shit, I didn't think of that. It makes perfect sense that you say it, but I would never have thought of that in a million years if you didn't say it. So like, my silly brain is just full of all those kind of tricks, and some from Jake, from Dusty, some from Doc, some from Al Snow, some from Rip Rogers, some from just all over the place.
Yeah. Which
so I come up with myself, and just being a student of the game and a traveling wrestler, you just learn, and do more learning.
Which brings me to my next question. Before I get there, Mr. Herb says every young worker out there needs to be listening to Sinn. He understands the business, and we're going to get into that when we talk about what you do at the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion shows with On the Fly. But before we get into, you talk about WWE, your career there, what was going through your mind when you were developing your character? Was it you developing it some after Jake the Snake, some after your dad, combining? Like, what helped you develop your character into what you became?
I think I'm just sort of a two-legged vortex of all sorts of different stuff. Like, I was never, like you see on indie shows, you'll see some bargain basement Road Warriors, or a bargain basement Big Papa Pump, or a bargain basement Shawn Michaels, or a Bret Hart, or whatever. I always like to be bits and pieces of things and smash together with my own originality. So, like, there's a little bit of Jake-isms, a little bit of Adrian Street, a little bit of Dr. Tom, a little bit of Bob Orton, a little bit of George Steele, a little bit of Muda, a little bit of Adrian Adonis, a little bit of Roddy Piper, Rip Rogers, Michael Hayes, all sorts of guys. Like, just too many. Billy Robinson, right. A ton of Les Kellett, tons of dudes that you wouldn't even think. And then too, not just wrestling. Like, throw some D. Schneider in there, throw some Green Goblin in there, some Ultron, some Joker, some Captain Spaulding. Like, I get Spaulding all the time. Like, oh, you remind me of Captain Spaulding. I'm like, whoa, you came up with it all by yourself. You were so creative. My goodness. And again, like you said earlier on, I don't know if we were recording yet, but you said when wrestling fans, somebody says wrestling's fake, and you're like, first off, that's not a question, that's an insult. Like, it's like saying, hey, I heard you're a lawyer. I heard all lawyers are assholes. That's not a question. It's an insult. And wrestling is predetermined, but it's dangerous. And what is not fake is the injuries, the time away from your family, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all that stuff. So, but when I hear some idiot say it's fake, like, what are you going to tell me next? Santa's not real either, you fucking moron.
I think everyone who has that opinion should truly go put a wrestling ring together, because in their minds, they think it's a trampoline. And I've had a few opportunities to help put a wrestling ring together. Sure. And let me tell you, there is zero chances that when you're taking a bump, regardless of a body slam or a suplex, and you're hitting that mat, that the ring, right, that it does not hurt.
Zero. It's wood and steel.
That's all it is. Absolutely.
It looks like it's recoiling because, like, the height, weight times velocity, when 300-pound people are smashing from 10 feet up in the air, like, why do you think cars look the way they do after they've been in a fender bender? Why do you think that aluminum and steel and all these different things is all bent to shit? Because of velocity, impact, kinetic energy, and all that kind of stuff. So I love when fans come and bang on the edge of the apron and they go, holy shit, that's solid. I'm like, yeah, that's right. And yeah, I mean, if some idiot wanted to sign a waiver, be my guest, get in the ring and, sign your life away. I'll show you what's up. And just about any wrestler would be happy to do that.
Yeah. I to this day, I still kind of cringe when I see someone doing a move right outside of the ropes, right at the edge of that ring. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
it's dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. Let's talk about WWE. Now, I know you briefly talked about your dark match, but talk to me about, did you get a call from WWE? Did someone send you to WWE?
For that dark match, for that original dark match, like, again, this is pushing almost 25 years ago now with that.
Right.
But that Edge got me that. Edge put a word in for me for that. But when I got hired to be Kizarny, and first to go to FCW, to Florida Championship Wrestling, I got hired out of OVW. I was working for Al Snow and Danny Davis, and I was training with Al and Rip there, and Robert Gibson, and they saw tape on me, I guess, and they liked me. And Mike Bucci, Nova, I was his first hire, as he was a talent relations guy, so he hired me out of OVW. I went to went to Florida. That's where I sit down with Vince at a pay-per-view, and that's where he came up with the name Kizarny, and then that was that. And trying to do that as best as I could, but I think it wasn't meant to be at that stage of the game. And yeah, I get a lot of, like, you said it to me earlier before we were recording. You said that I was ahead of my time. So I will tell you, probably the most double-edged compliment I've ever got was from Jake the Snake, and he said that I'm the most creative guy he's ever met, and I'm ahead of my time. And I said, I'm pretty sure that's code for I'm going to die poor. And he said, you're fucking right, brother.
Unfortunately, yeah. I can completely see that.
I see guys come on, and I'm happy for them. Like, I have no ill will. I'm not a bitter wrestler at all. I'm happy to see wrestlers doing great. I'm happy to see producers doing great or whatever. At the same time, I'm like, I can do what they can do.
Yeah.
Probably no more than some of them, most of them. And if that makes me sound like a heel, I'm just telling the truth. Right. I studied under Jake the Snake for a quarter of a century. I know my fucking shit in and out.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, and I'll argue this with anybody, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the podcast. All of my friends will tell you I say this. Arguably, Jake the Snake Roberts probably has the most brilliant mind within professional wrestling. Everything from ring psychology to the psychology of cutting a promo. I mean, the guy's brilliant. He really is.
You know how sneaky he was in the ring? You never knew when he was in the ring, whether it was with Ricky Steamboat or whoever, you never knew Ricky Steamboat was 5'10" and Jake was 6'6". You never noticed that. It's how Jake pivoted and positioned to make themselves look about equal, because Jake didn't want to wrestle like a giant or what have you. Like, he wanted to be a slithering heel. He wanted to be a fast striking heel against guys like Steamboat and Sting and Macho Man and all these guys. Like, if you notice, most of the guys that Jake had his feuds with were, 6 foot if they were lucky. Steamboat 5'10", 5'11". Macho Man was about 6'1" ish. All these guys. When I stand next to Jake, I'm 6'1". I look like Hornswoggle next to Jake the Snake. He's 6'6" in his bare feet, like close to 6'7", I think. Just a big dude.
Yeah. Donna Stagg says, hello, guys. Donna, one of my favorite people in the whole world. Thank you for joining us. What amazed me about Jake the Snake Roberts, before we move on, was listening to him talk about his insecurities. And that struck me because I'm like, my God, if someone like Jake the Snake Roberts could have insecurities, that's a little scary, because, again, this guy was just a perfectionist.
Sure.
Within
professional we all have, and anybody be lying. They're lying or they're dumb if they don't have anything to worry about or anything that bothers them. It's a matter of just getting over it, finding a way to defeat that. And then the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Again, like Rocky Balboa 101, and how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit. Right. Keep on getting up. So I think Jake's downfall, as far as his demons robbed himself of many good years of performing. Whereas, maybe Dusty Rhodes or Ric Flair, arguably two of the best psychologists ever, they just did it for longer. They kept themselves, physically, mentally out of trouble more than Jake did. But if, everything's butterfly effect away from if. So if Jake's demons didn't get the better of him, who knows? But I mean, in his time, look how amazing he was. It just outshadows everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Darla Taylor says, hope you both are doing well. Thank you, Darla. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the podcast. Now, I want to talk to you about your name on WWE, Kizarny.
I'm going to listen to you. If you don't mind, pardon your audience, pardon me, but I'm just going to stand up and I'm going to walk into my sort of hobby turned side hustle when the pandemic hit. I make those 3D figures. I sculpt them online, and I make them, and I print them for people. So I've got some I've got some in the dip. So my dogs are going to bark as I go out here. I'm just going to check on it, make sure they're good. and then I'm going to get right back to it. And I have no choice but to do this right now because
No worries.
I live on the edge of, hey babies, I live on the edge of Death Valley where the temperature fluctuates so crazy. So I kind of play weather DJ in my workshop here. And so I've got like, I'm in a giant winter coat in the morning. I'm shirtless in the afternoon, like the Death Valley weather. I know, babies, I know. And so I'm just checking on everything and make sure it's all good. You can see right there. Here it goes. Like I got this old bad boy working.
You're frozen. You're frozen, so we can't really see what you're trying to show us.
I'm just showing you my. I'm just making these little printers and making sure they're all okay. I got this guy going on here with my little creatures. And here I am again. So everything's looking good so far, and yeah. So all right, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. Come on, babies, let's get out of here. Come on. Let's go. Come on.
Talk to me about the name that you had in WWE. Did the name mean anything? Was it something that, first off,
it was Vince McMahon's idea because he liked the whole carnival thing that I did. I was a legit circus strongman and sideshow freak. So, pro wrestling was started in the carnival. So he called me Kizarny, which is Carney for Carney. That was Vince McMahon's bright idea. You stay there, babies. You stay there. I'm surprised he didn't bark as much as possible. Come on, champion, get out of here. Sorry, watching my little guys. Come on, guys, get out of here. Let's go. Got my little beasties. So my wife and I, come on, Rambo. Come on, champion. Come on, babies. Let's go. Let's go. No, I can't because they're going to be really loud. I'm still on this podcast. Okay. Come on, guys. Come on. Let's go. Rambo, I'm on a podcast. Come on. There you go. Good boy. Come on, let's go. There you go. Good boy. So I've got my little, we call them the littles. I got these little rescue dogs. And they're tied up in the yard right now.
They're not tied up in the yard.
I said it's their time out in the yard. They're not tied up anywhere.
Right.
They tie up a human before they tie up an animal. So why would you say they're tied up in there? They're not tied up in the yard. We have three options. It is their time in the yard. I think I treat these dogs better than I treat most humans. So we've got little rescues, and we get them from like the kill shelters where nobody else wants them. Like we got a little old Chihuahua girl that's got a little deaf and has like a bit of dementia, and have a little seizure, a little seizure pug Wawa. We have a little blind poodle named Rambo, and we have a little blind and deaf Aussie named Ricky Bobby. So we've got our awesome, and they're awesome. Why anybody would throw these little creatures away just drives me absolutely bonkers.
We have three Aussies, and they're literally like, we're about to be empty nesters with our kids, but we have our three fur babies now, three Aussies that we can spend our time with, and they are so spoiled, and they're great though. Darla Taylor's really Darla Staggs. I'm not sure why I'm showing up like that, Darla, but she says that she has three of Sinn's figures. They are amazing. We're going to talk about that briefly as well. I got to see them in Vegas. Were there any moments in WWE that you wish had going differently, that you felt like that you missed?
I'm not sure. What do you mean? All of it. Yeah. I didn't want to get canned. Yeah.
Right. It
was a company I grew up loving. I watched it since I was a little kid. I still do. I've wrestled there. I've coached there. I've produced there. It's awesome. And weirdly, technically, like these days, I kind of work next door because I work for Power Slap, and it's under the UFC umbrella, which is like WWE under the TKO name. So like I'm sort of across the street, on paper for WWE. Power Slap show is awesome. I love it. It's weirdly like I book a lot of the wrestlers on there, and that's probably why one of the main reasons why they hired me. They wanted a wrestler to sort of that travels a lot and knows what to look for, and knows how to kind of look for heart, because again it ain't ballet. I love wrestling, so respectfully, I super love wrestling, but Power Slap is less dangerous than wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a lot of people, it's crazy. That's what they told me when I went to be a wrestler 100 years ago, or that's what That's what they said about UFC back in the day. It was a human cockfight, and now it's morphed into a household name. So power slap is like, when you see somebody get knocked out, they're not getting a concussion, they're getting knocked out. That's the difference. Like,
Right.
concussion is here, knockout is when your jaw jerks and you pinch your carotid, turn up the lights, the party's over, for a few seconds, and that's that. Again, having said that, it's gnarly. It's for sure stiff, and it's for big boys and big girls for sure. And I want to see, like, I want them to make a T-shirt that says "Pussies need not apply." Because I see so many wrestlers. I see so many wrestlers cry about it. So, why would you do that? It's crazy. It's just like, you're fake fighting. Like most wrestlers back in the day, like those awesome wrestlers, 90% of them, the ones that we grew up loving, they got into it thinking it was legit, and they had to get smartened up to it. So they didn't sign up thinking it was phony baloney. So I think that's the difference in mentality from the guys from what I came up from versus the guys and girls now. Like nowadays, they all get into it knowing it's basically a physical, like it's like a physical soap opera. That's not how they were pitched. Like Road Warriors didn't think that when they signed up. Jake the Snake certainly didn't think that when he signed up. Macho Man or any of those guys, like they thought it was legit, and they got smartened up as they got into it.
Right.
So that's sort of like the big difference. But I would tell guys and girls that are on the fence about wanting to compete, or like, oh, I want to, but my wife doesn't want me to, or I want to, but my husband doesn't want me to, or whatever. I'm like, don't look at it like a fan. Like it's we've got our bells and whistles on it with our fancy logos and the music and this and that and whatever, and the slow motion replays sells the drama, and it is absolutely a physical ordeal, no doubt. But at the same time, like if you just gave me a good old wrestling Raw or SmackDown chop in the chest and you filmed it slow-mo high def, that's exactly what those slaps would look like. My skin would wobble around all the same way. So all those shows, whether it's hockey, UFC, baseball, wrestling, fucking Harlem Globetrotters, they're selling drama as much as they're selling a sport. So I would just tell the guys or girls that are interested, like, look at the statistics, or ask me any questions and I'll answer it for you. But don't let just some ham and egger tell you, oh, it's crazy. Like, don't let somebody rob you of going after something that could, get you life-altering money or life-altering exposure. Again, it's wrestling adjacent, it's WWE adjacent. But if you want to be in WWE and you're not getting that opportunity, this is as good as it's going to get. Like, not everybody can be top guy at WrestleMania or something like that. So, but like some of these guys and girls, they'll make more in one night than they will in 2 years of being an indie wrestler.
Right.
So food for thought.
So two questions. One about WWE before, and we'll move into more about Power Slap. What was your favorite memory in WWE? Maybe a match or something else. And then what led to you having to leave WWE?
My favorite moment, I guess I was wrestling in Tupelo, Mississippi, which is, everybody thinks of wrestling, or everybody thinks that Elvis Presley was from Memphis, but he lived in Memphis, but he was really from Tupelo, Mississippi.
Yep.
So we get to the show, it's just a little house show. And Ricky Steamboat is my producer that night. And he comes over and he goes, look, Kizarny, and he goes, I wouldn't usually sign off on something like this. He goes, but I know you're silly. I know you want to do it. I know this is the time to do it. He goes, so when you get out there and you hand that heel his ass, give a little shake, rattle, and roll, Elvis style, and make sure you fit that in. I said, Mr. Steamboat, Mr. the Dragon, sir, shake, rattle, and roll. You will see. And so we had a really fun match. It was me and Eric Escobar, who was Vicky Guerrero's bodyguard at the time, and a really good dude, very good wrestler. And went out. And again, I never, like, out of like the bajillion live events that I did as Kizarny, I was never like the curtain jerk guy. I was always somewhere in the middle of the card, and it was stacked. It was always Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, Triple H, Big Show, Undertaker, like all these guys, and then some, and then little old me somewhere in the middle. So, and same Eric Escobar, he was pretty new as well. So again, we're on this star-studded show, and here we go. We do our thing, boom, bada, bing. Elvis danced, wiggle the hips, all that stuff. People lose their mind. But it was a fun match. Like the Elvis thing was just a fun, silly moment for me. But overall, like the match was, I was very proud of the match. And so as I walked through the curtain, Ricky Steamboat standing there with a big smile on his face, and the Dragon himself was just like, that was a fucking awesome match. Really great. I was like, well, thanks, Ricky. And then walk a few feet further, and Edge is standing right there. And again, we're childhood buddies. He could tell me anything. It's going to be, he's never going to bullshit me. He's going to tell me something I want to hear, something I don't want to hear. He's going to tell me whatever the truth is. And he was just like, that was fucking awesome. He goes, that was so fun. So to have like one of my childhood friends and one of my childhood idols, give me such a nice compliment, kind of like back to back on that match, was super cool and super special to me. It kind of helped validate that shitty dark match from 1,000 years ago.
Right.
So that was super cool for me. Like, it was good enough to entertain Steamboat or the Rated R Superstar, then I'll take it.
Right. Now, what led to you having to leave WWE?
They said creative has nothing for me, but I kind of found out it was just some guilty by association politics that I didn't really want to. I don't want to like throw my buddies under the bus. So
Sure.
it was just like, yes, it was to punish other people.
Right.
So I hear. I don't know. Like, I don't have any definitive closure on it. Like, I just had a bunch of he said, she said garbage.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I have no idea. And I've been back as a producer and as a coach, and they were very cool to have me back. And I love coaching and producing. I did a lot of stuff with the Performance Center, and I did some stuff with NXT, and I had a blast. I loved it, and I was treated with nothing but respect, and I really enjoyed myself. And Matt Bloom is a class act. Triple H treated me great. Like, everybody there was wonderful. It wasn't the same experience that I had as talent there when I was Kizarny. Like, it was just a whole different dynamic.
Right. Let's talk about Power Slap briefly, because I know we're running out of time. How did you get into Power Slap? What exactly is your position with Power Slap as well? And before you answer that, by the way, when I first seen Hollywood Haley J on there, I was like, no way, right? I mean, big attitude, but she's a tiny girl. And let me tell you, she rocked it. She absolutely rocked it. I think that was one of my favorite videos I've watched was of Hollywood Haley J.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, I remember when, before she had competed, she was telling me, I had a bunch of the boys, busting my chops, and why are you going to do that? You're going to get your ass knocked out, blah, blah, blah. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. And she went out and did really great. And then all those same idiots kissed her ass.
Yeah.
That just goes to show anybody that does want to do something, whether it doesn't have to be pro wrestling or Power Slap or anything else, like whatever it is you want to do not listen to the naysayers. Like, misery loves company. Like, all those idiots, they're going to be the ones that aren't going to leave their, that same little job that they had when you were starting out. They're going to keep that job for the next 100 years at best. At best.
And be miserable.
So I'm a pretty silly and easygoing, peace-loving guy, but at the same time, like, if people want to like poo your dreams, and fuck them, put them in your rear view. You don't need those people.
Absolutely. What is your position with Power Slap, and how did this all come together for you?
So Dana White and his team, they wanted to find new competitors, and they wanted people that would be entertaining, and they got the idea that wrestlers are jumping off of ladders and tables day in, day out, probably not for very good pay, and they're entertaining while they're doing it. So maybe we want to get our hands on some wrestlers. And two, there's not enough opportunities to go around for everybody. Like, again, not everybody can be on a Raw or a SmackDown or an AEW or an NWA or a TNA or whatever. So let's give some of these guys and girls an opportunity to make some real money and get some real eyeballs on them and so forth. So then their next thought was, all right, well, who do we know that does that stuff? So I guess they realized that I was the guy that travels so much, and I do lots of seminars and I wrestle. I fly out somewhere, wrestle somewhere different, some city, some state, some country every week somewhere, and usually do seminars and, get my hands on the local good guy or local bad guy. And after the fact, tell them, all right, more of this, less of this, tighten this up, loosen this up, do this, do that. I think I'm like the Bull Durham of pro wrestling these days. So I think they figured I would be a good guy to be in the trenches and kind of scout. And that's how the opportunity popped up. My wife works for one of the highest of high ups at UFC. And he knew that her husband was a wrestler, and she kind of like egged me on that opportunity. And so a lot of it I owe my wife for kind of getting the ball rolling, and she kind of made an introduction, and then went in there with I say the office. I use that like that wrestler speak, like some of the guys that are non-wrestlers that I don't know, like even talking to to Dana and his team. Like, I'm like, just so you know, when I'm talking to the wrestler, I refer to you guys as the office, because that's just speaking wrestlers speak to the guys and girls that I'm bringing in. They're like, okay. And I think it's kind of like amusing to hear some of the wrestling side of things and stuff. So, but they're happy with the wrestlers. And I think, like Haley's doing a great job. Juicy's doing a great job. Stunt Marshall, lots of guys and girls have been on, and uh, Zeta Zhang from NXT was on. Marty the Moth, like the Lucha Underground heavyweight champion, former Lucha Underground heavyweight champion, Marty the Moth did it. Mecha Wolf, Vicky Dice, lots of really awesome competitors, and more to come. So I think getting more eyes on the product. Like, I mean, and they're Dana White's own words in the first meeting we all had to sit down together. It's like, this is still new, and we can grow it how we want to grow it. So let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
do you, by the way, I haven't forgot about our conversation. I want you to bring Power Slap to Minneapolis. I've been meaning to make appointments to go talk to some people. I know what we said during our conversation, been dealing with some health stuff with my injury, but there's something I would love to see come to Minneapolis. Do you think that Power Slap has the potential to become as big as UFC?
I'd like to think so. I mean, Dana White thinks so. He's gone on record in saying that, because again, his point being, it's like, you could watch all the way through a match or all the way through some shows, and it's a great show, UFC, but maybe there isn't that one special moment you don't get to see. Whereas, again, his words, but at Power Slap, every 3 seconds there's a holy shit moment.
Yeah.
Like, measure on 1, measure on 2, measure on 3, wham, holy shit.
Right.
So it's pretty awesome to watch live. Like, I was hooked. The first show I saw, I was blown away. It was amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's I love watching it. Final couple of questions, and it has to do with.
And they want to. I think they want to expand the shows too. Like they're in the 3rd season now, and they want to do 12 shows in the oncoming year. And I was kind of bugging them. Literally the other day, I was just there. I was just at UFC, and I was telling them, like, man, I'm used to 3 or 4, 5 shows a week.
Right.
Let's like, I want to see these 12 shows this year, and then I want to see double the following year, and et cetera, and more. Like, I just want to see this thing grow. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm rooting for you guys. Let's talk about On the Fly. This is actually how I met you. This year, the 59th annual CAC Reunion in Vegas. This was the 2nd annual one that you guys did. Yep. How did this come together? I know this is your baby. Talk to me about this, and then talk to me about why you put this together for a lot of the guys out there.
Well, originally CAC didn't have a wrestling show. It was kind of for industry only. Then they opened it up to the fans, and then they started having wrestling matches. But those cards got so long, and everybody and their cousin's brother were able to compete on the show, and it was just, they were long and they were shitty. The skill levels were not so great. And I remember I would have cried if it was my match. But I remember seeing, guys like Harley Race or Cowboy Bob Orton just get up and be like, yeah, fuck this. And they just walked out like from the front row. They're like, enough of this bullshit. And I'm like, man, I would have taken a bump in my own tears if I saw one of those guys walk out of my match.
Right.
Like what little ego I do have, like that would have done it, So then at a point, the show just got so bad, and they just kind of canceled the show, the wrestling portion of the show.
Right.
And then a couple of years went by, and we talked about, if we were to redo a show, they'd want to do it much differently, and they want different, somebody different to head it up, and they like me for it, and Brian Blair and Ron Hutchinson and a bunch of the other board members were like, yeah, Sinn's the guy to do this, because he's young, he's got the energy of the young guys, but he knows what the old school guys know. So he thinks the show will be in good hands with Sinn. And I positioned it to be what it needs to be at CAC. Like, again, it's purely on the fly. That's the whole shtick. Like, you watch this certain pay-per-view, it's Hell in a Cell, it's Money in the Bank, it's Survivor Series, it's King of the Ring, it's this, that, whatever. So the whole shtick is this is on the fly. So it is a love letter to old school pro wrestling. So we would parade all the wrestlers out right at the very beginning of the show. So they are basically the human set deck. They are the stage. And then we would have, different legends, whether it was Haku or The Rock's mom or Bob Orton or whoever, Brian Blair, Cuban Assassin. They would randomly pick a wrestler, and another legend would pick another wrestler, and we'd send them to the ring. And I'd give them a sneaky signal when I want them to wrap it up. And I would give them a go home as I, from between the microphone to the ring, I would just think, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And I'd ask, like, hey, Brian Blair, who do you want to see up? Or, hey, Rock's mom, who do you want to see up? And that part I wouldn't let out loud,
Right.
I would let whoever pick whoever. And then I'd call a finish right from sitting at the desk, with sitting next to Dr. Tom and Rip Rogers and Rock Riddle. And 99% of the guys and girls did great, because they were kind of thrown in the deep end and they were prepared to not be able to talk and bullshit. And you could kind of see it was organic. And some matches are certainly better than others. But I mean, pound for pound, both shows in a row were great. And I mean, I remember after the first show, Brian Blair walked right up to me. He goes, man, that was freaking awesome, because that's what wrestling was. That's what wrestling should be. This was spectacular. And the first show was kind of the petri dish, was the tester outer, and the second show, like, I kind of had the full support of the CAC that way. And so now it's going to be a regular yearly thing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was one of my favorite nights there. I just found it incredible to have guys who weren't prepared as far as, because they didn't know who they were going to face, and then to see them get into the ring and have such great matches. It was
they
absolutely
legit did not know who they were going to wrestle until they were in the ring.
Yep.
They didn't know how long they were going to go, and they didn't know who was winning until I called it.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
100%. I remember just learning, like, in my infancy of pro wrestling, like Ron Hutchinson would sit, at ringside with the time, with the ring bell and a timekeeper or whatever. And, when he wanted you to go home, he'd like give you a little sneaky something or other that I don't know if I need to explain now all that, go behind that part of the curtain, but he would give you a little of who's up and when to do it. And that's what you did. And again, I can't do it not because I'm some special person or I'm so clever. I just came up in that time.
Right.
So, like, I think a lot of guys and girls would be able to do it wonderfully if somebody just took the time to show them. And I think nowadays, my just, again, I'm not poo-pooing the company that I loved. I think, WWE, all the companies are wonderful. Some stuff I like more than other stuff, but at the same time, like, I think they really control the performances because, a lot of it is corporate, and they want to make sure, somebody doesn't surprise them with doing something too crazy or this or that, or they just want to know what's going on. They don't want any surprises, and they want to know what cameras to go to or whatever. But that never seemed to be the problem, with Piper and Hogan or Jake and Macho Man or whatever. Like, those guys were all just going, So I think, and two, if you can call on the fly, when it comes to TV, you can memorize stuff just fine, because you can call audibles, you can go long, you can go short, you can do what you need to do. What if somebody's injured? Then you have to switch it up, So if you can work on the fly, you can memorize. But if you can memorize, that doesn't mean you can work on the fly, like, until you learn.
True.
So, like, one you can do either way, the other you can't. So I would behoove young wrestlers out there, guys and girls, to, like, as you're learning your craft, you're on the show with, somebody with a lot more experience, like a TV guy. Like, if you're on the show with a Fandango or a Heath Slater or Angelina Love or just anybody like that, if I were you and you're working them on a show, I would beg them to please take me for a spin on the fly. And they'll say, no, well, let's talk about a few things. And go, please, I'm begging you, take me on the fly. I can memorize, stuff on any given Saturday or Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday with some other person. But please, like, I know you know how to work. Please show me how to work. Beg them, bug them, because they can do it. Like, Angelina Love can do that. Who else did I mention? Like Brian Kendrick can absolutely do that. Fandango can do that. Heath Slater can do that. You know, plenty of those that style of those guys can do that. You know,
Right.
I know he doesn't wrestle a whole lot these days, but like Manu, Papa Jr., he is awesome. He can do that. You know, like if you're a promoter out there, book Manu. He's awesome. You know, and if you're a wrestler out there and you get to work him, beg him to take you on the fly. Like I watched him have awesome matches. Like I was always just so impressed with. I mean, I love his whole family. Like his family took such good care of me, you know, as I was coming up. But he's just such a great worker. Like he's one of the best I've ever seen, and he never gets his flowers, not ever.
Yeah. Final couple of questions for you. The first one is, what do you want your legacy to be? And then I'll tell you the second one is telling people where they can find your figures at, because you do amazing work. And if you guys aren't familiar with his figures, I would do some research and find them, because they're amazing. They really are. Go ahead, Sinn.
Thanks, man. So again, when the lockdown, the pandemic lockdowns hit, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I thought, well, that was bullshit. My spidey sense was tingling like crazy. So I thought, all right, well, how am I going to feed my family? What am I going to do since we are not allowed to wrestle or do anything? So at first I started making those figures to kind of keep my brain preoccupied. And then as I posted them, people were like, hey, can I buy that? I'm like, yes, you can. And so it kind of quickly turned into a side hustle. And I learned how to cast and mold, and then I learned how to 3D sculpt, and I can do all these different things. So so long and short, if you want a cool action figure of, you know, yourself or your husband or your wife or your tag team partner, or just some wrestler that you like growing up, you know, whatever, that did make an action figure on, like I can make you whoever you want. And so for figures or for seminars or to book me to wrestle or any of that stuff, all my social media is the same. It's all Sinn Bodhi, SINNBODHI. Just message me whether you want me to wrestle or do a seminar or make you a figure, and I'll sort you out for sure. And what was your other question? What do I want my legacy to be?
Yeah. What do you want your legacy to be? Absolutely. Go ahead.
I want people to know that I was creative and kind and safe. I want them to know that I had that hat trick of qualities, and, you know, there's other qualities I do not have. Like there's guys taller than me and stronger than me and so forth, faster than me. I don't know if there's anybody better looking than me, but, you know, there's definitely guys that have, you know, better abs or this or that or whatever. But I want to be known as the protege of Jake the Snake. I want to be known as the son of the snake. Like, man, Sinn Bodhi's psychology was on par next to nobody. Like, again, 1,000 years ago, I embarrassed myself in the ring, and I told myself I will learn everything about this business. I will learn about it in the ring. I will learn about how to be a good guy, how to be a bad guy, how to, you know, be in there with a bigger guy, smaller guy, this, that, the other, how to promote shows, how to teach seminars, how to book matches, how to get talent over, how to get talent heat. Like there's plenty of smart cookies, as my mom would say, in the office and in the locker room, but I will creatively go toe to toe with anybody ever in all of history, ever. That's what I want my legacy to be. Creepiest, smartest, funnest, kindest guy in the room.
And I lied about this is actually the last question. It's something I always have to ask. What is next for Sinn Bodhi? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be wrestling in Colorado in a couple weeks. I'll be going back to Florida to wrestle. I go all over the place to wrestle, so just keep just look for my wrestling posters and seminars on my social media. Again, that's SINNBODHI, Sinn with 2 N's, Bodhi like the tree. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to just keep on climbing the ranks at the Power Slap office. And told them unequivocally, I'm like, I want as much responsibility as you will give me. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I love the purity of it, in the sense that, like, I love wrestling, so don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing wrestling at all. But in wrestling, you're you're getting over or getting heat, or the opportunity to get over, or the opportunity to get heat because somebody else signed off on it. Like you were at the mercy of somebody else's creative whims.
Mhm.
Whereas this is you. If you want to be a good guy or a bad guy, this is you. If you win or lose, it's on you. It's on the work you put in or do not put in. So there's a purity in that. And like, again, standing there and just letting somebody waffle you and then returning fire, that takes some balls, and it just boils down to that whole love and hate at its purest form. Like, this is you get me, I get you. You get me, I get you. And we'll see who's left standing. And again, to ask, oh, Mr. Promoter, sir, do you want me to put this guy over that really in real life couldn't lace my boots, whatever, and vice versa sometimes too.
Right.
But like, for the most part, just like you're just at somebody else's whim, where this way you can literally, metaphorically and physically put your destiny in the palm of your hand. So that's the biggest, coolest thing I dig about Power Slap. And I like my bosses. They're awesome. They're fucking cool as shit. They're kind, they're generous, they're creative, and they want to see the show grow, and they don't like every single one of my ideas. I throw all sorts of stuff at them, and they take what they want. But I think I'm definitely building equity in that company, and I want to see it do good things. I'm super proud to represent it, and I want to be there for a long time if given the option.
Well,
and you asked me what my title was. So yeah. I guess technically on paper, I'm a consultant, but really what I am is talent recruiter and talent relations.
Got it. Sinn, thank you for joining me. I always enjoy talking to you. I enjoy speaking to you the first time I met you, for the first interview I did in Vegas.
Thank you.
To this interview, I have about 50 questions I didn't even touch on, just because the conversation is always good between you and I.
The sequel, even though the sequel's never as good, but I'll do a sequel.
Right. I would appreciate that. Guys, check Sinn Bodhi's social media out. Support him with the figures that he makes. Support,
and just so you know that so my wife and I have like an unofficial rescue ranch here on the edge of Death Valley, about an hour out of Vegas. So like, we're not a rescue, we just do rescue. Like, every critter that we get our hands on. We've got ducks, turkeys, chickens, goats. I got a giant tortoise about the size of a lawnmower. I've got a little mini Texas Longhorn. He's like 3 Great Danes strapped together, like a real size Longhorn is about the size of a U-Haul truck. I've got dogs and cats and guinea hens. I've got all sorts of stuff. So just know, when you're buying those figurines from me, those LJN style figures, your portion of that goes to taking care of all these critters. So
see, it just gets better and better. Yeah, gets better and better. Support Power Slap. Check it out if you're not familiar with it. It is so entertaining. I promise you it is. Again, Sinn Bodhi, thank you so much, guys. In about an hour, Get Your Bell Run Pro Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back on to be doing the recap of AEW Dynamite. We are officially on EC USA. If you guys don't know how to get that app, just go to your Roku streaming device or Fire Stick and go search it out. Find the app just like you would if you're looking for Netflix, to add Netflix onto your Roku app. Check it out. It is a great app with so many great shows on there, including a lot of professional wrestling. Please subscribe to my podcast. And until then, you guys have a great week. Sinn Bodhi, again, thank you so much. Tell your lovely wife I said hello.
I will do. Thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care.